Hello, friends. Before we start the podcast today, I'd like to invite you to consider becoming a patron partner. So, patronage is the main way that I'm able to continue doing this work of making things that make room for people to meet Jesus. And things are things like this podcast, and the books, and the albums, and the concert tours I go on to be able to share these songs and stories. So those things become like little rooms, hospitable spaces, where certain kinds of conversations are much more likely to happen, where I hope that people have an opportunity to find out who Jesus really is. So if that sounds like something you'd like to support, to participate in with me, I would love to have your help, and I would really appreciate your prayers. Just visit matthewclark.net/partner for more information and to become a monthly supporter. And now let's get to the podcast. Hello, welcome to 1000 Words, Stories on the Way. My name is Matthew Clark. Thanks so much for being here today. We made it. This is the last in a series of podcast episodes where I've been introducing you to the essay writers who contributed to my latest book and album called Where the River Goes, Meditations on the Return of Jesus Christ in Story and Song. This season 6, will close next week with one last episode, and it's going to be a longer episode. I'm going to share the entire reading of the epilogue to this third book, and I'm really excited for you to hear it. Meanwhile, all 3 albums are out now on all the streaming platforms, and all 3 books are on Amazon. You can even get the audiobook on some platforms, including Spotify, and hopefully on Amazon soon. For this project, each of these writers chose a song from the album and then wrote an essay in response. I asked them to enter into a conversation with the song that they chose, and also just with the overall story behind the whole trilogy and behind the album, which in this third book of the Whale Trilogy is all about Jesus defeating death finally in the hope of the coming resurrection and new creation. If you're curious about the project, the Whale Trilogy, and how it all came together, I've had more in-depth conversations about it on a few podcasts that you can check out. And to make that easy to find, I put them all in a playlist on my YouTube channel, as well as some videos of speaking engagements at various conferences that I've done over the years. Just go to youtube.com/MatthewClarkNet. Well, this is week 11 of this series, and today's featured essayist for the Whale Trilogy is Malcolm Guite. I first met Malcolm back in 2010 at an arts conference at Duke. My friend Abby had introduced me to his poetry the year before, and over the years, Malcolm's ministry and Malcolm himself have borne a lot of good fruit in my life and really helped me on my journey as an artist. Malcolm agreed to write for the very last song of the whole Whale Trilogy. The song is called The Dream of God. The Dream of God is really about the beatific vision, that final mutual unveiling of both Christ and his bride, the church. St. Paul says that for now we see in a glass darkly, or not clearly, but then we shall see face to face. And that's what all of creation is longing for. And it's what God longs for too, because God had this beautiful dream for this world when he made it. And even though that dream seems, in many ways to have become a nightmare, God will rescue the world. And in the end, the dream of God will come true when Jesus appears. And the other idea is that when we see him seeing us, that's when we'll finally be able to see ourselves reflected most truly in his face, because only he truly knows all that we were meant to be, and only he can get us there. So this is the song that Malcolm chose, and I'm deeply grateful to him for making the time to put together this essay for this project. Malcolm's friendship and generosity have meant so much to me over the years. So here's a little bit about Malcolm from his bio in the book. Malcolm Guite is a poet and a priest and life fellow of Girton College, Cambridge. His books include Sounding the Seasons, 70 Sonnets for the Christian Year, that's from Canterbury, 2012, and Mariner, A Voyage with Samuel Taylor Coleridge. In 2023, he was awarded the Archbishop Lanfranc Medal by the Archbishop of Canterbury. He also has a YouTube series called A Spell in the Library at youtube.com/c/Malcolm Guite Spell. And I'll add that most recently, Rabbit Room Press published the first in Malcolm's series of epic poetic tellings of the Arthurian legend. The first book is called Galahad and the Grail, and it's amazing. You should definitely check that out. So, I'm forever grateful to Malcolm for this essay. I'll read a sample of his chapter entitled Full-Eyed Love, and I'd encourage you to order your copy of Where the River Goes today so you can read the whole thing. When I was 19, and moving from atheism toward a greater spiritual openness, but by no means yet a Christian, I went for a long, slow walk round Ireland. One evening, St. John's Eve it was, right at the end of my journey, I came round a headland at sunset into a beautiful little bay and inlet on the west coast in Donegal, just as the fires were being lit. Already there was drinking and fiddle playing and dancing, and I asked where I was, and when they said Glencomkill, I felt a sudden quickening and sense of connection, as though a memory stirred. They asked me my name, and I said, Malcolm. Ah, that is why you have come, because he has called you. I said, Who? And they said, Colm has called you Malcolm, for this is the place he fought his battle and gathered his disciples. And from here he left for the white martyrdom in Scotland. They went on to tell me the story of St. Columba and the battle he had fought, of his repentance, his self-imposed exile, his journey with 12 disciples from this glen to Scotland, where he founded the Abbey of Iona, from whence Scotland and much of the north of England was converted. Of course he is calling you here, they said, for your name in Gaelic means servant of Colm, which is Columba. And as they spoke, I remembered at last, right back into my childhood, how I had been told stories about this saint, and how I was named for him, even how my grandmother had published poems about him and sung her lullaby for the infant Columba over me as a child. As the night wore on, I wandered down to the shore whence he had set sail, and I thought, I'm not a Christian, and I can't imagine how I could ever become one. But if I do ever become one, I'll remember Columba, and I'll go to Iona and thank him. The poet Michael O'Shiel says in his wonderful poem, March On, he can't imagine it, and still he must. A garden where beginnings and ends collide. Every image is trying to widen our trust. Standing on that shore, before I knew the light of Christ's face, I felt keenly just how thin the veil was, how something of heaven, whatever heaven might be, seemed to glimmer through the images of the sky and the sea itself in this place. Without my knowing it, I had long been on a pilgrimage, like Dante before me, toward a great unveiling, beckoned along a way of ever-widening trust to a feast and a face. So much that I could not have imagined or dreamt was nonetheless being dreamt of on my behalf, as the Lord's primary imagination drew me onward, wooing my own. As we look at Matthew Clark's lovely song, The Dream of God, we may be assured with its singer that God is wooing us, calling us, encouraging us to imagine the good end, the eucatastrophe, the coming of the kingdom, the day of resurrection. Heaviness may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Psalm 35. And now, even in this pre-dawn dark, we are encouraged through this music to look over the event horizon and imagine that morning, that awakening to a joy which no one can take from us. We can't imagine it, but still we must. And so, drawing on Scripture, Clark offers a series of images that might begin to kindle that imagination. And as O'Shea says, every image is trying to widen our trust. And what a cascade of trust-widening images this song offers us. The river flowing, the primrose growing, the morning mist rising, the spring after winter, the lifting of a veil, seeing and being seen, our beatific vision of God and His of us. The war ending in a single trumpet blast, the dawn breaking, the sleeper awakening. Let's look at a few of these image emblems in more detail. The river. The image of the river is not only the opening image of this song, but an image that runs through the whole of Matthew's Well trilogy and rises into the title of Where the River Goes. The river also runs from the beginning to the end of Scripture. The 4 rivers run from Eden to water the world. The streams make glad the city of God. Psalm 46:4. Even in the Babylonian exile, there is a river, to suggest the flowing Spirit as God's presence and witness to our songs of lament. Ezekiel saw the pure waters flowing from the temple, itself the promise of an Eden restored, and of course upstream of all our exile and sorrow flowing toward us from its source in our future, there is the river of life itself, on whose banks are the trees, whose leaves are for the healing of the nations. That paradisal river has always inspired the poets, as it did in Dante's poignant line in the Paradiso, where the 2 great scriptural images of light and flowing water are fused. And Dante sings, "And I saw light in the form of a river." That line itself inspired me in my poem, O Oriens, e vidi lume in forma di rivera. Paradiso 30:61. First light and then first lines along the east, to touch and brush a sheen of light on water, as though behind the sky itself they traced the shift and shimmer of another river, flowing unbidden from its hidden source, the day spring, the eternal primavera. Blake saw it too. Dante and Beatrice are bathing in it now, away upstream. So every trace of light begins a grace in me, a beckoning. The smallest gleam is somehow a beginning and a calling. Sleeper, awake. The darkness was a dream, for you will see the day spring at your waking. Beyond your long-last line, the dawn is breaking. That confluence of light and water imagery in Dante's poem resonates especially with me as a lover of sailing. I learnt to sail with my father, who was a classicist. When we were out sailing, he loved to quote poetry, especially Homer, with his gripping accounts of the fleet that sailed across the wine-dark sea. Messing about in boats, as water rat says to mole in the wind and the willows, brings me great peace and joy. Here is a wonderful passage from that book worth mentioning, since in Matthew's song we're sitting by that great river that makes glad the city of God. He thought his happiness was complete when, as he meandered aimlessly along, suddenly he stood by the edge of a full-fed river. Never in his life had he seen a river before. This sleek, sinuous, full-bodied animal, chasing and chuckling, gripping things with a gurgle and leaving them with a laugh, to fling itself on fresh playmates that shook themselves free and were caught and held again. All was a shake and a shiver, glints and gleams and sparkles, rustle and swirl, chatter and bubble. The mole was bewitched, entranced, fascinated. By the river he trotted as one trots when very small, by the side of a man who holds one spellbound by exciting stories. We can feel the playfulness and joy in this passage. Psalm 46:4 says, "The river that flows through the city of God delights or makes glad the place where God and his people dwell together." Gladness is a word that has to do with light, laughter, happiness, blessing. And so we see light and water joined again as the shining face of God flows in joy to us through Christ, who has made the light of God's face to shine upon us. C.S. Lewis told of another noble rodent like mole who sailed with Caspian to the edge of the Narnian seas in a boat whose very name suggests Dante's union of light and water. The Dawn Treader is a vessel that sails toward and, in some sense, upon the light. As its crew nears Aslan's country, the water at the end of the world ceases to be salty and becomes, quote, drinkable light, enabling the sailors to endure the brightness that would otherwise undo them. In a similar way, the river that flows from the temple not only beckons us toward a rising joy, but prepares us to bathe in a beauty that in our current state we cannot endure, frail as we are. Ezekiel's river is already flowing and gathering depth, and as we are carried along, we are being prepared for an arrival. Okay, thank you, Malcolm, for pointing us toward the beatific vision of Christ through your essay. And here is the song Malcolm chose to write from this third book in the Well trilogy. It's track 11, and it's called The Dream of God.
Every winter waste by the spring sun kissed, and every veil has been removed, and the face of God revealed. When you see him seeing you, you'll be the dream of God made true. Of a different kind, when the beauty wells up in the eyes and shines, 'cause every veil has been removed, and the face of God revealed. When you see him seeing you, you'll be the dream of God made true. holy saints keep watch through the night, bravely bearing the pain while the dragon grins all fire-famed. The breath of God shall extinguish him, so hold on to the hope that took hold of you. Though you sleep for a time, you awake in truth. Though these nightmare hooves beat through this midnight dream, they will break when the dawn rends this world that it seems, and the rider arrives on the white war horse to reclaim everything that was lost in the war. You will hear his name like a trumpet blast. Every lover will sing, he has come at last, and the dream of God will be all that remains, while the bride looks with love on the Lamb who was slain. 'Cause every veil has been removed and the face of God revealed. And when you see him seeing you, you'll be the dream of God made true. See, the veil has been removed and the face of God revealed. Can you see him sing? Don't be loved, every word spoken is true. It's coming true. Come soon, he's coming soon.
All right, friends, if you haven't gotten your copy of the Well Trilogy, head over to Amazon now and place your order today. And check your favorite audiobook supplier as well if you'd like to listen to them. They're not on Audible just yet, but I finally did figure out why they weren't showing up, and hopefully it won't take too long to fix it. Also, if you enjoy the books or the albums or this podcast, please do share them with somebody. Leave a review and subscribe. All of those things really help to get the word out. And as just a reminder, if you would like to help me in making things that make room for people to meet Jesus, I'd love to have your help and your prayers. Just visit matthewclark.net/partner for more information and to become a monthly supporter. That's all for today, but tune in next week for the last episode of Season 6, where I'll share a special long-form reading of the epilogue to Where the River Goes, entitled Learning to Dream Again. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time on 1,000 Words, Stories on the Way.